All right, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, December 3rd, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Real quickly, just to review what we were doing yesterday, we did have actually an expectation the market would potentially continue to sell off and go through the low from the day before, which if we just zoom this back, you can see was down there right at 44.97.75. That was our expectation before the open. However, right at the open, it was basically just a rip your face rally higher. So we did try a few shorts around these areas expecting that continuation, but the bulls jumped in and really just started ripping it. So we had to reconsider our bias there pretty quickly. And I was watching here off the lows just at the end of our pre-market or while we were doing the pre-market. We started to develop a little 10-minute, 3-minute bullish signal down off these lows around 06.50, and we actually have an eye level sitting right in this area. I'm not going to give the actual value, but it was sitting right at these lows, and we came down right into it. So right at the open, I recognized the potential for that bullish divergence, and the follow through, but we did have that bearish bias. So we tried some shorts, and sure enough, this bullish signal that we got off the lows did end up following through for the breakout to the upside. So again, we did switch hats pretty quickly there, and then the market just rallied into the close and then went sideways, or rallied all throughout the morning and then through lunch and then went sideways there. And that's kind of what brings us into this morning. Notice that we pulled back for that leg right there and pulled back right into this 50 to 61.8 area, right into this previous resistance around 45, 49.50, 45.48 area, and came right into that and tested it. And again, this is another beautiful example of having this area of structure here in the market, right in this area, and the market gets through that area, pulls back, finds support right about off the highs, and again was just in that perfect 50 to 61.8 retracement area. So not too surprising we got the bounce out, and then that brought us up here into this morning with another nice bullish divergence on this pullback, and you can actually see once again a nice little 61.8 retracement almost to the tick. And look at that previous resistance in the market sitting right there off those highs, and we bounced right off of it. Again, another beautiful move in the market. And now here we are up at the open. So we're going to do our pre-market analysis. Did want to mention we made a little trade call before the open to try 88.50 because it was a 61.8 retracement. It was right off that previous resistance. It was an eye level, and there was also some divergence setting up. So it made sense. There was follow through, but then bears jumped in, and then we got the larger bounce right off of this huge confluence right here off the 200. The CP and the eye level. However, this was, let's see, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes ago. I was not at the screen to go ahead and make the call off that next level. But that seems to be the one that is following through. And now we seem to be holding off the previous daily high right there, at least in this instant. Could very well start to pull back. But so far, we're attempting to push up above and hold above that previous daily high. So let's go ahead and go to the ultra high time frames and start looking at what the charts are saying. Really don't need to talk about the quarterly. It's just starting to develop that new candle. The monthly, again, we have a really clear bearish divergence, assuming that this stays the way it looks right now. Something I am noticing is that we are kind of getting this coiling here. We have this new high. We have the lower high in RVI. We have that bearish signal off the lows of this monthly. And remember, we were talking about this down on the weekly here, which we'll get to. Off the lows of the monthly, we also could make an argument that there is very glaring bullish divergence, or what we consider a bullish continuation pattern right now. So we'll have to kind of watch that. But right now, that bearish divergence off the all-time high is definitely looking valid, and we could have the counter arguments starting to develop. So let's go down to the weekly. The weekly also has that same situation. We talked about it for the few days now, that they still could pull back 200, 300 points to the actual low that we're comparing with, and we would still have that divergence. So it's going to be hard to really pinpoint the turn just looking at the weekly, just looking at the monthly here, because there's a lot of room below us, and we could still have the argument all the way down. So we'll watch this and continue to see what happens here. Going down to the daily, notice again we're still holding 50% of this leg to the all-time high from the lows from October 1st. And so within almost, I think it was 2.5 points, we held that level, and now we're back up, attempting to retrace up the back end of this correction here. So we'll see if we get continued follow through. Very bearish looking bar there back on December 1st. But as you can see, it looks like they're attempting a recovery right now. And off the current low, this 50% retrace, unfortunately, we don't have a beautiful bullish divergence on the daily here. Doesn't mean that we're not going to get continued follow through and continue to push for new all-time highs. Sometimes you do have a pullback in the market and you don't get a nice bullish divergence. Like back here, this pullback from July 19, 2021, it was essentially the launch from 4,200 to 4,500 for over 300 points, but that low did not really give any type of strong bullish divergence. Now, most of the other pullbacks do, and especially the one from October 1st and October 12th. And then some of these others, there was follow through. But right now, we don't see it. And like I said, sometimes you don't get the signal, and it still continues to go. So this might be one of those situations. But right now we do have what looks to be some bullish follow through here for the last day and now a day and a half, and we'll see if by the end of today we get that continued follow through. Now breaking through that very bearish looking candle there, the high was, let's see, 46.50.75. So if we can get through that 50.75, that's going to make it look much clearer that we are going to have strength to come back to the all-time high. But again, it's not worth really talking about that. We'll just wait and see. If it gets up there, then we will have to kind of reconsider. And then when we get down to some more actionable time frames here, the 4-hour, look at what's going on. This is a pretty common pattern where you have continued pushes to lower highs, continued pushes to higher highs on RVI, and then the opposite on the bottom end. So we push to lower lows, but we're pushing to higher lows. And this is a common pattern. Essentially, at some point, it's going to break, right? So right now, we're stuck in this downward kind of channel, right? And like I've said in the past, what I like to do, and I learned this from, I forget who, and I'd like to give some credit here, but I learned it from, I forget the guy's name. He does have a YouTube channel, and he draws from the lows, copies that, and then pastes it up to the highs, and essentially that's how he draws his channels. And then on the opposite side, when you have two highs and only one low, he does it the opposite for bullish patterns, or I'm sorry, bullish channels. And so right here, we're stuck in this channel. Notice we're about to essentially break through this, arbitrary channel we just drew. So potential for that breakout. And right now, that 4-hour has a nice bullish signal from the low from not yesterday, but the day before. And then the low from yesterday as well did print a nice bullish signal. But we also have the bearish signal from the previous daily high. So it's kind of funny. This is essentially what we've seen on the 4-hour for quite a while. We don't have kind of a strong, sometimes what happens is you don't really have any bearish signals at all, and you have all bullish signals. So that's giving you a little bit more faith in the breakout to the upside. And vice versa. Sometimes there's really not a strong bullish signal off the low, but then there's a bunch of very strong bearish signals, and that's when we would hang our hat more on that side. But for a while now, we've seen a lot more kind of ambivalent looks to the 4-hour. So right now, some decent bullish signals from the lows, but we're still contending with all those bearish signals. One thing that I'm noticing here is that this 4-hour bearish signal from the previous daily high is essentially done now. Now what we're going to have to do is stay above there, right, and hold above that area. A little peak above it like we did just now for a few points, and then a failure, that's perfectly fine, especially because we would then have another bearish divergence right now, as you can see. So this does not necessarily mean it's over, but so far we've kind of begun the process of breaking through the bearish signal from the previous daily high on the 4-hour here. So we'll have to watch here. If it fails, we will have that nice clear bearish divergence once again. and this is a very strong, a higher time frame here. So if the 4-hour prints a bearish signal and we do start to see a pullback, it might be an indication to start to look at the other side of things. And then on the 60-minute here, we also do have that potential bearish stuff going on here. Again, we are in this little downward channel. If we connect the lows, give me one moment here to do that. And copy that, bring it up to the top end. We're right in there, and we do have the bearish divergence on the 60-minute as well. Also a pretty strong time frame. Now remember, we have to keep this stuff in context. We're in a downtrend, so it might make sense to hang our hat on the bearish signal that we're getting up top here for the expectation for a pullback. But what we've seen in this market is every time we try to pull back, the bulls jump right back in. So we'll see if we're, that is starting to change. As we start to turn and peter out and start to pull back, we will get stronger bearish moves, right? Just like we had from Black Friday, just like we had from just a day or two ago, these very strong sell-offs. So we need to keep in mind that right now there are some higher time frame bearish signals from the high of the overnight session right now. And despite breaking through the previous daily high, that could just be that peak above for the failure. And let's go down to the intermediate time frames, see if there's anything else that can help us out this morning. And go to the 30-minute chart here. So as you can see, we did have that decent bearish argument from the previous daily high. And then the 30-minute and even arguably that 60-minute, not really the most beautiful bullish signals from the lows. I forgot to point that out. We don't really, from a 60-minute perspective here, have the strongest bullish signals from the, well, definitely from the previous daily low. There's no bullish signal from the previous daily low. And then the daily low from the day before that, also I would argue not really the strongest bullish signal. Yes, you can come all the way back to the lows from a few swings beforehand, and if you connect the lows there, you definitely could argue that there's divergence, right? And so there is that, but it's not a nice local bullish divergence that I like. And there's definitely no argument right here from the previous daily low for bullishness, but on the 60-minute we do have all these bearish arguments from the highs right now. And let's go back to the 30-minute here. So same thing, 30-minute really not a strong argument for the bulls off the previous daily low or from the low from the day before that. So we do have, again, one of those situations where there seem to be a lot more bearish arguments from the highs right now than bullish arguments from the lows. And then on the 10-minute, we'll see here, I think the 10-minute did have some decent arguments for bulls off the lows. So it's a little mixed, but I do think there is a decent argument at the moment for a bearish pullback from 46.02 here. So what we're going to expect this morning is some type of pullback from 46.02. However, if the bulls jump in here and they really start to continue to push, we're going to have to reconsider our bias this morning. Now, let's see. I thought I had 50% of the previous day drawn on the chart, and I think I do. It's just really far down. I could have sworn I might have not copied it over. So give me one second here. I know we're getting close to the open, but give me one moment. I have to copy the 50% line over. And let's see. There's it. Okay. Could have sworn I had it on there. So staying above this 45, 49, 49.50 area, that's 50% of the previous day. That is going to be important for the bulls. And then one other thing I forgot to put on the charts here is 50% of the previous 4-hour chart or 4-hour candle. And I'm just going to have to bear with me for a moment. I lost one of my high time frame charts here, so I'm going to have to click around until I find it. It's not that. It's not that. There we go. So give me one moment. We're going to look at 50% of the previous 4 hour, which is, I'm going to just estimate here because we're on the broadcast. I don't want to take the time to now calculate, but just around 45.6975. Let's call it this level right here where we have an eye level and a prediction point at 68.50. Staying above that would be important for the bull. So even though we are expecting a pullback this morning, if they hold above 68 or higher, or they hold above 49 this morning, that is somewhat of a bullish argument. So staying above those levels and seeing that follow through could mean we get a break. The second we break through the overnight high at 0.02, all those bearish arguments are gone, and we're going to be full-fledged bulls looking for that continuation upward. Remember, breaking through that channel. So once we get through the channel here, the high at 0.2, we would continue to look for buys, expecting continuation to the upside. And of course, in the more local, small time frames, we are making the beginnings of this bullish push. So we don't want to ignore the fact that overall, we are having this bullish attempt to break out from the range, the descending range there. And if they can't get through, we will expect the pullback. If they can get through, we will be looking for long. So hopefully that helps you guys out there in YouTube land and anyone else watching. We're going to jump down to these short time frames and get into our member section here to start looking for some trades into the open. So have a great day.